Hello everybody, it's Holger Mueller here from Constellation Research, welcoming you to episode number 118. Welcome to my fabulous co-host, Liz Miller. How are you doing, Liz?
I'm doing well, Holger.
Good.
I don't know why these episode numbers always come up and sneak up on me. Like I'm somehow surprised we've done this so many times.
Yes. We've done half of the 118, which to my math is like 59 something.
Right.
Like this.
And it's funny to think that, everyone else has rotated hosts except for the two of us.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether that's called longevity, durability. What words, what tech word, what buzzword can we use to describe that?
We have more episodes than I've been summers on this planet. So.
See, there we go. There we go.
Well,
but the whole reason why we're here and the reason why we do what we do is for the tech news. So let's get to it. Holger, what has been happening in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, lots of things generally happen, but we look at our conferences that we've been. I had the pleasure to be at SAP TechEd in Berlin. Finally, SAP is back to an in-person meeting after neglecting it a long time. They did that in the Lion's Den in Berlin, where the biggest problems, the biggest heavy users are. And the crux of the issue is, of course, automation built in their programming language called ABAP. They provide a little love on that, not too much, but it was a good event. They had some interesting thought things. SAP, did you know that, published their first LLM, RPT-1, for Rapid, a way to understand not only the semantics, which I'm working on before, but also something which can look on tabular data, something I've been looking for in general, because we know LLMs are very good at looking at documents, they're not so good at transactional data, right? And so specialized, speak German now, specialisiert, specialized on looking into tabular data. Let's see if we can get this cut out of the Spätzle, keeping in specialized on tabular data. No, SAP RPT-1, no jokes apart, very good innovation, differentiator for SAP. Nobody else in the enterprise software space has shipped anything like that. And it was good to have the energy, 2,000 people there. So the next year is going to be in Berlin again. So they know they're doing something right and they're going to repeat the show. So well done.
It feels like SAP, for a while, I think you and I both often talked about SAP feeling a little distracted, trying to figure out like what cloud, where cloud, who cloud. Like it was a little bit like a Dr. Seuss book around there with them. But it feels like they've gotten really focused in on who their users really are, who their builders really are, and where they need to be. Am I imagining that?
Yes, well, they realize that they have an S4 upgrade problem. The S4 upgrade problem is based on people who have built code in ABAP, so they have to help them on the ABAP side. And this is why it's good to do this in Germany, where the most critical users are. And if they want to get ECC customers to upgrade, they have to solve and address the ABAP problem, and they're doing this. So we'll see how much that will move things, but it doesn't happen overnight. So one TechEd will not do it. One TechEd rekindles the relationship. There's more things they have to be on their build product. But I mean, AI is wonderful in terms of understanding old code that nobody wants to review and potentially moving that old code to what SAP cherishes a lot, which is the clean core. So we'll see they're working on that as well. And we'll see at Sapphire probably if they have any updates to that. So good move by SAP overall.
Nice. Yeah. Anything happening in the HR world?
HR world has been more quiet for me last week.
Oh no!
Oh no, yeah. Well, kind of like I was at Unit 4's Analyst Summit, but that's also interesting from a platform perspective as well as the HR part. We never even talked about HR, but talked a lot about AI and how they're going to tackle AI. And they're making progress on that, but they're moving a little slow. So we have to see how the new leadership is going to address that and moving this. They have a new CPO, they have a new CEO. People have to find where the furniture is. Overall, not much of a surprise. Interesting hotel, the American Hotel in Atlanta, the first integrated hotel in Atlanta. So historic place from recent history. So that was interesting. But before, much more interesting to that point, much more innovative was the IBM Quantum Developer Conference, which happened in Atlanta as well. Yeah, only 2 blocks to move. That's nice for moving from one conference to another one, not even needing an Uber. And significant new news on the hardware side with the Nighthawk processor, the Loon error correction proving itself, and about 500 quantum developers attending the conference, learning how to build quantum applications Qiskit, which I think is a win. It's the second conference for that. The whole quantum industry is doing well. We had a very good insights with the new minted, not only head of quantum, but head of IBM Research, Jake Ambedder, Very, very smart person, no question. IBM follows since many, many years. But interesting to see his insight how the industry is moving along. And the nice thing, of course, being an analyst, you always are worried if you say something where they don't think it's correct, but then they agree with you at some point, which is that business optimization is really the use case to look for the reason I've been saying the whole time, that you can right-size the problem to the quantum machine and use other hybrid computing machines for that, right? So, and interesting enough, Jay said, well, we're going to get to quantum superiority if the HPC community is pulling their weight, right? So it's clear that there's a combination between high performance computing and quantum to make quantum business optimization work. And for an enterprise, that's what doesn't really matter, right? How I'm going to get to the optimization to the optimal state, which quantum can do much faster than any other architecture. And if I burn some HPC before or some AI before, hey, who cares? As long as the quantum result is better. So that's going to be something interesting to look for next year. Yeah,
Nice.
but you've been around in the street as well, right? You went to Amazon, I believe.
I've been moving all around, and I got to tell you, so I'm gonna connect the dots on the quantum thing there, because I got a chance, several weeks ago. It's been quite a while, but it still sticks with me. I had a chance to go to IBM Tech Exchange, right? And the funniest thing there is like, why is Liz going to Tech Exchange? Is usually the question everyone asked in our company water cooler. And I swear to you, they planned it perfectly, because I landed there on like customer experience realization day, or at least that's what I'm going to call it, because it was about how all of the pieces developed together, and everything that was getting built was really being done in service of these really optimized customer experiences, whether it was for
IBM changed the Tech Exchange agenda for you.
It was. I would like to think so. That's what I'm going with. I'm going with it. No one can tell me
now. That's what I heard.
Yep. Yeah, it's going with it. But here's what I thought was fascinating. Developers, when they were asked kind of what they were dealing with and what they were grappling with IBM technologies, it was about applying all of these tools and technologies for these customer experience applications. Where did they think they were also potentially going to miss the mark? Customer experience applications. So it was really interesting to kind of see the two worlds come together. But here's where I'm going to thread this needle, Holger. There was a long line of people trying to figure out what exactly quantum was, and they had a really nice showcase for it. And there were consistently large crowds around that, just taking it in, figuring out where they could fit into the quantum conversation. So, hey, you may have landed on something there. People are starting to look at it. So we'll have to keep talking about why it's important for cloud, infrastructure, non-normal quantum people, folks like myself. Why shouldn't we pay attention to it?
It's a long but the PSA announcement, we shouldn't do like quantum is real this year for quantum key encryption. If 100%. You think a state actor, we don't want to mention any countries, might be spying on you and might have access to quantum machine which is not published, right? You need to quantum key encrypt at least your R&D and anything that you think is sensitive in 2025. If you're not doing this, reach out, do this ASAP, because the threat is real, the motivation is real. Protect your IP assets with quantum key encryption. And that use case is easy, standard for your networking. Don't diddle-daddle on that.
That is the New Year's PSA for everyone, because absolutely the threat is real. And if anyone believes that it's only the good guys looking at quantum, that's right up there with only the good guys are looking at AI. So that's a whole other conversation, right? But I will tell you, I got the chance for the last couple of weeks to really see where AI and this whole mysterious thing that we like to discuss around agents and all of the LLMs and all of the frontier, foundation, all the models. Well, I got to spend a whole lot of people who are trying to figure all this out and put it into application. So everyone from Smartsheet, and so all the project managers, they're trying to figure out where AI fits in actually making their lives easier, or is it just going to make their lives harder? The nice thing that I got to see at Smartsheet is that these folks are really looking to apply AI, not so much in these big fancy waves of giant agents that are doing all the things, but it's almost like they're focusing in on how to chip away at the little things. How do I chip away at those super practical issues that I've been trying to manage all the time? Getting all those data sets analyzed across complex scenarios. How to actually do strategic planning in complex scenarios without getting fired for making the wrong call. How do you experiment? How do you ask questions? Certainly saw that with the team of Smartsheet. And it was really interesting then having to kind of take off that hat and put on the advertising and the marketing hat again, and I got to spend some time with the folks at Amazon advertising. And the thing that is so fascinating there is it's almost the same question. right? How do I chip away at the small things that have consistently been a business problem, that have consistently held me back from achieving something? We're not talking about how do I get it cheaper, like programmatic advertising, right? That's like a so 2 decades ago conversation, but it's really is more around how do I get that experience, the right ad, a personalized ad that's right for Holger, but it's not right for Liz. How do I get that delivered into something as simple and as small potentially as my phone? Right? How do I leverage that memory in that space and that cache generated augmentation? Like, how do I look at these different tools and solutions around AI to deliver those really robust experiences, to switch up my content, to change on the fly, but also how do I connect all of these systems and how do I connect all these databases? So I think a lot of what you were talking about with SAP, of I know this model does this really well, I know that model does this really well, I can't afford to have to pick. How do I do it all really well? And how does that layer and how does that orchestrate? And they're looking for really practical business use cases in order to get that done. No one wants to go out and get their next PhD in AI that works in a marketing department. It's just the reality.
But wait, are you saying we're getting into day 3 of AI? And there's still drudgery around in creating ads or creating spreadsheets. There's still drudgery. It's not all like flying and esoteric.
Right, it's not flying cars. I don't know if that's day 3. I don't that kind of feels more like day 1 and a half.
Year three, yeah. We're getting into year 3, right? So
yeah, it's pretty amazing. I think that people listen. Last year was the year of all the functional folks worrying if AI was going to take their jobs.
Yep.
Right. And I'm sure you saw that in HR too. Certainly saw it in marketing, certainly saw it in advertising, certainly saw it in customer service and in contact center. This year, something different is happening where they're not only standing up and saying, listen, AI is not going to take my job. We've seen what happens when people do silly things like that. But AI is also not letting me do the job that these tools and solutions have said I was going to be able to do. So there's a different layer of disillusionment that I'm starting to hear really grumble from the ground up. And I think it's something that we have to listen to, right? And I think that you and I meet with enough functional folks, and we certainly talk about these issues at things like CCE. We'll talk about it in the upcoming Ambient Experience Summit in February in 2026 of, yes, it's great. Let's lean into AI. But as you and I have always said from the beginning in many, many different ways, it's great to want to lean into the automation. It's better to want to admit you don't have the data to do it yet. Lots of things are happening. We're barreling for the holidays, so that's certainly going on. But most importantly, we got lots of interviews coming up. We will be back at the end of the show to say a quick farewell. But in the meantime, let's get to the episode.
Hi, I'm Larry Dignan from Constellation Insights, and we're here with Scott Searcy. He is a CX SuperNova Award winner. Congratulations, Scott, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
So let's just kick it off from the top. Walk me through the project and what you were hoping to do.
Sure. It started in our Florida, and so one of our Florida markets, I forget exactly which one, but there was a zoning change that allowed us to put more digital assets in certain areas. You know, there's laws within the outdoor advertising space. You can't have them all on top of each other. So something changed in a local government that said they could do this. And then that opened up idea about, hey, what can we do with other boundaries in terms, and we looked at local, we looked at state, we looked at federal, and just got an idea in collaboration with the people at Oracle and using their Oracle Analytics Cloud Tool, or OAC. We were able to import those map layers and then overlay them within the map, and then show using latitude and longitude where our assets fall in or around those political boundaries. So that's kind of how we got started and how we got here.
So it was kind of a game of geo-targeting and putting assets and ads where they would most likely be received well. Is that how it worked?
Yeah, so it started in the Florida example as how can we generate more revenue by putting up a digital board in a place that's now allowed, and then that idea sparked, well, we have an upcoming, it was around 23, I guess, or 22, and it's like, okay, we've got a big election coming up. How can we use this newfound tool to help drive revenue in the political environment? And we were able to do that, increase sales in a lot of swing states, And then also, as I mentioned, more in the state and local levels, where there are highly contested races, we were able to show our sales team, hey, you should be looking at, targeting these campaigns during that time frame.
What does geo-targeting unlock in terms of future use cases?
Sure, yeah. It helps us, we already had some ideas off of the political movement with, live events. So, sporting, whether it's professional or collegiate, or a festival or a concert series. That's just some of the ideas that we've had where we could target specific for those events to locations that are close or nearby, or perhaps on an artery of a major interstate where we have an asset. And in terms, probably most of us are used to seeing the old static ones, probably the ones that we most remember are we're looking for some place to eat and it's like exits here, here, and here. You can go stop at this place to get food. When we have that with various advertisers, the most one people are probably familiar with are McDonald's. I know that from having hungry kids in the back seat. It's like, okay, there's 5 exits away. Can you hold out till then? And so that's a way, obviously, as well in the old static world. On the digital side, it's a exciting time to be in this space. There's all kinds of different ways, I think, and this was an initial step that we did, and I feel like there's a lot more to come. We're still in the early stages of it, but it opened up a lot of opportunities for us to kind of throw out some ideas to not only our marketing team, but some of our sales associates as well.
How do you see it applying to other businesses and campaigns? Like, what other industries would this make sense for?
I kind of touched on it before. I think, on our entertainment side with live events, that could certainly do it. We have a World Cup coming up here in the United States. We also have the Olympics and coming soon to Los Angeles, and which is one of our major markets. So, those are obvious ones that most people probably are aware of. But showing this, I think, kind of hopefully got ideas for our regional markets. We're based in New York, so a lot of things we do are here, but we're in major U.S. cities, all across the continental United States. So each market is unique in what types of assets we have to display on and what types of customers they have. So I'm hoping that this will kind of spark some ideas and interests that they can kind of bring to us, and then we can spread more out throughout other markets or regions here at Outfront.
What are your most valuable KPIs for a campaign like this?
I touched on it earlier in the call. Obviously, return on getting more revenue as compared to what we did before. So, looking at various things where we were to same day or at the same point last year, and seeing what that increase did. A lot of things you can be driven by, in this case, the political cycle. So, the fall of 28 will probably be a lot better than the fall of 27. But that's obviously one of it's probably the most important KPI that we would use. We could also look at, category spending. Political category is a big one, and why I'm here today. But there's obviously, I've touched on entertainment. If I think back to COVID, which I don't really want to, but the healthcare side of it, there was a big bump in spend with healthcare. So I think looking at categories and their increased return would also be another way that we could help do that, and then hopefully capture the time frames or the seasonality of when those bumps happen, and then look for ways that we can prep and plan for that in future.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Welcome back, CRTV. Question for you. What happens when a brand decides to pivot? We've seen it a couple times. We've seen it when an organization says, okay, it's time to maybe shift focus, maybe shift markets, maybe it's time to add focus, narrow where we're going. Maybe there's time to go and address an adjacent market. Maybe there's time to deprecate a product. The concept of pivoting, yes, while hysterically funny when shouted down a stairwell with a couch with the cast of Friends, is also something that we find organizations having to do all the time. Massive ambitions sometimes don't always pan out in markets that really need practical ambitions. And I think that's what we're seeing from Freshworks. So I had a chance to spend the day with the team at Freshworks at their Freshworks refresh event. Their customer event was held in San Francisco. And I gotta say, leading into the event, I wasn't sure what I should expect. Freshworks has been on a journey, and I think the word pivot is fair. There was a pivot in business strategy and decision to take what had been a very ambitious kind of full experience engagement platform. We've got fresh sales, fresh desk, fresh market, fresh everything, fresh CRM. That's not what they called it. Don't quote me on that one. But it was ambitious. And while the origin of the Freshworks story started from a very real frustration over a broken TV, if you haven't heard the story, just Google it. I promise you it's there. It's quite charming. Where Freshworks found itself was in trying to perhaps over pivot to try to continue developing these really practical functional tools in a market that was getting increasingly chaotic and increasingly crowded. So they did something that not a lot of organizations, quite frankly, have the strength and the fortitude to do. They pivoted into a direction that included focus and an admission that what they were actually battling, that uphill climb, that's the hill that Sisyphus is pushing the rock up, is more about the complexity and chaos of the market, just how hard it is to get things done today in the world of technology, in the world of CX. That it was less about how much they needed to offer their customers. It was more about how focused they needed to get for their customers. And I think that's what we're seeing, what I'm just going to call this new incarnation of Freshworks that I got to see and spend time with their leaders and their team on. So if we're saying that Freshworks is focusing, the next question has to be, well, what are they focusing on? And I will say they are very much focused on answer and service delivery for their employees, kind of internal to the organization, and then that service that sits external to the organization. And right now they call it CX and EX, and we can have a philosophical discussion over whether I think those are the right things to call them or not. But at the end of the day, they're trying to focus the velocity of answers, the velocity of problem solving, the velocity of service in that direction of what has to be served, what has to be orchestrated and organized to streamline the ease of service and answers and problem solving, challenge wrangling, internal to the organization, and what needs to happen external to the organization. And there is definitely a belief that an uncomplicated service delivery, uncomplicated experience delivery shouldn't be inherently complex. There was an interesting conversation, and it's really spearheaded not only by their CEO, but I will say by their amazing CMO, a good friend, Mika Yamamoto, who I think is just like slaying all day long as their chief customer and chief experience and chief marketing and chief like everything growth officer, is that Freshworks has centered on this idea that complexity is the enemy of growth. And while that feels like a really simple and uncomplicated statement, it is inherently wrought with challenge. Because in order to drive growth, we've implemented stacks, we've applied data, we've applied processes, we have workflows that have unintentionally complicated everything. In order to drive service and delivery and experience delivery for our employees, we have built stacks, built on top of clouds, delivered workflows, had processes that make things, unfortunately and unintentionally, complicated. But I think what the standout differentiator here is for where Freshworks is pivoting is that they're not only streamlining and really focusing their functionality and their capabilities to focus on this internal and external delivery of real quality AI first, AI powered service. But they're also trying to make sure that all of their operations, from the partners that they choose to the, the customers that they service, that there is an easy button kind of inherently in there, right? That Freshworks comes with an easy button. And yes, that is AI powered, but importantly, they want things to be easy to use and easy to stand up. They don't want a, 9-figure MDM to have to come in front of all of this. They want practicality. They want usability. And I think that's what we really saw for this excitement, that right now, a lot of their success and a lot of their motion is from business teams, from say HR and finance and marketing, service, everyone who's trying to answer those big questions. And their growth is certainly being driven by these larger enterprises trying to figure out how to uncomplicate this morass that we've somehow gotten ourselves into. Partnerships and larger partnerships are going to be fundamental to, where their success comes from and where they are going. But really what we're talking about is, how do we troubleshoot? How do we identify? How do we see the roadblocks that maybe we've unintentionally created more chaos and more complexity? So what I'll say is, this is what I learned from Refresh. Freshworks has sharpened its focus. It is really on this journey to know itself in a very intentional and opinionated way. My expectation is that we will see a lot more of that opinion and a lot more of that expectation out in the wild. We're going to see just how Freshworks is going to be that platform to not just uncomplicate the delivery of that function or of that service, but quite frankly, of how we get growing, how we get moving, how we connect all of these pieces. I think that it's going to be about having not just opinionated updates and rollouts and intentional AI that are very practical and moves with their customers so that their customers can move quickly. But I think what we're going to also see is this concept of persistence and durability. It should be one persistent, unified platform. It should be one experience, one conversation. It should be driven by where the customer wants to be. It should be proactive. It should be as proactive as it is reactive. So keep an eye on Freshworks. I know I'm going to be, because I think that what I assumed about Freshworks and what I knew about Freshworks even 3-4 years ago is going to change dramatically as we keep our finger on the pulse of what's going to happen when complexity is eliminated. Does that mean that simplicity is the engine for growth? For Freshworks, they're taking that bet. So thanks to the team. Thanks for everyone having me there. And now back to me and Holger. You'll see in a second. Woo! Holger, yet again, another episode in the can. We have been around the world, quite literally, for this episode. We have talked about Germany. You're in Arizona. I'm home. I'm pretty stoked about it. But
Wir machen einen Deckel drauf, right? Remember our closure sentence? Wir machen einen Deckel drauf.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. We have managed to survive all of the silly business in airports with flight delays, where 40-minute flights actually take 6 hours. We live to tell the tale, and thank you all of our viewers, for coming along for the ride. Listen, next up in 2 weeks, you are going to have the absolute pleasure of hearing from our friends Larry Dignan and Martin Schneider. You might even get a surprise live episode. Maybe we're going to sneak something in at the last big show of the year of 2025. Of course, we'll be closing that out with all of us attending AWS reInvent in Las Vegas. But there are a couple other things to mark your calendars for. Listen, in the Constellation year, our year ends with the Enterprise Awards. We call it like we see it. We give the best. There are a couple worst. We're compiling those now, so be sure that you keep it on tap to watch in the next several weeks. Other than that, we out. We'll see you next time. all of my best of
More
intentions of any day just get shot to hell when the day actually gets going.
Yeah.
It's like it just fuck it. Fuck
Are you
it.
talking about? Are you talking about live or something?
Yeah, Jesus. It's like,
That you start with
Okay.
intention and then
oh, it's like, but here's what I'm super excited about, everyone. Okay, ready? Are we ready? Okay, watch. I'm starting to get motion back here.
Oh, nice.
It's going to be really exciting when this eyebrow catches back up to this one. So they're in the same place, but like right now there's still enough swelling on this side that it doesn't move.
Jeez.
Like,
Wow.
yeah. Are we in the right spot? We're in the right spot. Are we in the right spot?
nope.
No. Hannah. Oh. 1, 2. Oh, there it goes.
Do I have too much glare on my glasses? Should I take them off or not? No. You have them on,
No. Yeah. No.
so I'm not sure. I'm not.
I
we
need to
haven't done
shuttle
this.
back. Yeah, that's it, right?
Yeah,
That's it.
I think that's the
That
way.
feels right.
No,
Because
that's
then
the
we
way.
just do that.
The way.
No, other way. Other way. Other way.
Why?
You, other way.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm
that
married.
way.
I'm married. I'm married. I'm not.
Yeah, 1,
I'm doing
2,
it here.
3. Woo! Yeah.
Here we go. Episode number. Ay, Hannah, come on. I know you're standing, but where? Oh, there it is. 118. Aha.
118 or see there it is. Because it says episode 18, and I was like, dear God, no! Don't make us do a
Going
Holger.
back in time. We're going back in time.
Please
I decided to
no.
keep the glasses off. All right.
Okay.
Good to go.
Yeah, let's do this.